Hello everyone. Today we are looking at a game between Grandmaster Konstatin Landa with the white pieces and Alexander Morozevich with the black pieces. This game took place in the Russian Cup final some 20 odd years ago. The game started off e4, e6, French defense by Morozevich, d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, bishop g5, and bishop b4. This is known as the McCutcheon variation, and this is a good defense to play as black if you like sharp, unclear games. You know, if you like games there's a lot of tactics, a lot of murky positions, this is the opening for you. Um, it's not seen too often, but it's not because it's bad. It's just right now the players at the top are not really, um, you know, don't really have a preference to play this opening. So it's definitely a good opening, and you probably can catch some people like unprepared in this line right here. Landa played e5, all right, which is of course the main line. If e takes d5 here, then black can either play e takes d5 and just keep things symmetrical, or black can go for queen takes d5 and like say bishop takes f6, bishop takes c3, takes, and let's say queen f3 for instance, and and black just has an even game here. So normally e5 is played, h6, and here Landa played bishop e3. Now, the main line at the time is to go all the way back and play the move bishop d2, and then black parts with this bishop, and then knight e4, queen g4, g6, and h4. Knight takes, and black has a decent game here. All right, it's not winning, of course, but he has a good game. So here, Landa played bishop e3, knight e4, queen g4, and here instead of g6, Morozevich opted just to move the king over. And now after a3, bishop takes c3 check, b takes c3, and now Moro played c5. Or knight takes c3, then white would just simply continue his development here by playing knight e2, and say if knight takes e2, bishop takes e2, and although black is a pawn up here, white has a nice lead in development here, and he will start the attack on the king side in prompt fashion. Probably after, let's just make up some moves like b6 for example, castle, and say knight d7, and then f4 with the idea of course, f5. And of course, black will probably have to weaken his king side here, or even play f5 himself, which is no big deal to white, because after f5, white will simply play queen h3, and then work on the g4 advance. Okay, so that pawn is, although it can be captured, it's kind of tricky there. So this is why Morozevich didn't just go pawn grabbing. So after king f8, a3, b takes c3, b takes c3, he continued the logical attack on his opponent's center. Played c5, bishop d3, and now that he's threatened with the loss of a pawn himself, now he plays knight takes c3. White keeps the equality by playing d takes c5, and now knight c6 with the tempo against the e5 pawn. Knight f3. Another idea. Sorry, after knight f3, Morozevich played this move f5. Another idea here is queen a5. Morozevich played f5 during the game. And basically, he's forcing this en passant capture here. I mean, queen g3 is playable, but it gives white like a better prospects in the position here. So, like if he just does queen g3, black can hop in with knight e4. Black can play d4. It just kind of opens up things. It just opens up things for white that are favorable. I mean, excuse me, open things up for black that are unfavorable for white. Say bishop d2, for example. Queen d5. And you can see black is kind of dominating the center here. So after the move f5, he just played en passant. Queen takes f6, and now queen h5. And then Morozevich just advanced his center. Alright. So the lesson here is notice how Morozevich had a plan to neutralize the white bishop pair. He gave up the bishop pair early in the game, by playing bishop takes c3. But now you can see the fruition of Morozevich's plan, which is to erect this full pawn center, and notice how that neutralizes the white bishop here. So that's a jewel that you can put in your cap, that a powerful pawn center will often neutralize the pair of bishops. Bishop g6, bishop e6. All right. Landa just castled. Interesting here is bishop g5, because of course the pawn cannot capture because the rook is vulnerable. So what does white do here? He has a powerful move here, and just playing simply bishop g4. And if bishop takes here, then simply bishop takes on h5. Bishop takes g7 check. King takes g7. Bishop takes h5, and then knight a4, getting this this pawn back. So black now has equal material, and his pawn structure is better. So that's why Morozevich wasn't worried about that move, bishop g5. Although it looks like a slick move to play. So castles instead, and now bishop f7, knight h4, rook to e8, rook a e1, king slid off. Now Morozevich just has to figure out how to get this rook in the game on h8. Everything else is good. His knights are good. His bishop, nice center. It's to get this piece in the game somehow. Okay. F3. Now, you can see white is kind of like playing a little bit, I don't know, maybe timidly. Maybe F4 to try to try to break up this solid pawn structure here. It's hard to see if maybe had to play a little more aggressively here, because at least this creates some holes in the black central pawn structure here. So let's say after E5, bishop takes F7, queen takes, king takes, and now knight F5 with this idea of taking over the squares here, or even after king D6, move like that. And this you can see how the black pawn center is a little weaker. So I think F4, is a little more aggressive and probably necessary in this position here. F3 is a little calm. Morozevich just played rook E6, kept attacking. Bishop takes, queen takes, and Landa avoids the queen trade with queen G4. Rook F6 from Morozevich. Bishop drops back to D2. Knight to B5. And now he played F4. And so you can see white, it was like, oh man, I made a mistake. I probably should have played F4 right away. But now black has had some time to make some extra moves. So now E4. And notice white is not really in a position to challenge the control of the D4 square. So after E4, he plays C4. So of course, this is the whole idea to undermine the E4 pawn. All right. And so it's kind of like a bit of an oversight here. Knight takes A3, C takes, queen takes, rook E3. Morozevich plays H5 here, which is very strong. Knight C4 is also very powerful. Also, like I like this move also. Knight C4. With our knight C4, then rook G3, and then you probably have to play rook F7. So although rook G3, knight C4 looks like the more natural move, it gives black a little initiative here. To say rook F7, then bishop C3, all of this pressure on the G7 pawn. So this is why it's understandable why Moro hit with H5 first and attack the queen. So the queen dropped back to E2, and now knight C4. And of course, better for white here was either queen D1 or playing queen G5 and going in for the trade of queens, whereby black is still better here. The queen E2, knight C4, rook D1, and then just knight D4, and Moro is just rolling with these knights here. Of course, knight takes E3 is possible also, and probably winning. But Moro wanted to just keep more control over the position instead of letting the position get out of hand. So he just keeps just keeps attacking, keeps his pieces on good squares. Queen F1, and now finally he gets this rook out. He plays king H7. All right, so now now black was already better without this rook. That's another amazing a facet I liked about this game, is that Moro was essentially playing a piece down, and he was still like winning in the position. Matter of fact, he didn't even have to get that rook in the game yet. He could have just grabbed this pawn right here. Still winning, still good. Right? Put putting the queen, grabbing the pawn and putting the queen on a deadly diagonal with the king. So for example, queen takes c1, and let's say he did try to rescue the rook. I mean, he's just dead. He's just dead in the water. After knight, for instance, move like knight f3, for example, or even knight takes d2. It's just all. It's black is just lost here. Let's say he takes here again, knight f3 with the double check, king h1, and the party has started. So queen takes c5 is very powerful, and practically winning without even getting this extra piece in the game. But Moro played king h7, rook went to c3, knight d2, rook d2, and now powerful move rook d8, f5 from white, and here Morozevich plays the move g5. All right, so he sacrifices the pawn, and what that does is open up the f file against the white king. All right, and it also allows the black queen to come over to attack the white knight. All right, so that's the idea with this move. So good move, but even stronger is just e3. E3 is very strong here. All right, and more to the point. The idea, like primarily, of course, if rook takes e3, again you have this same situation. Queen takes c5, and you see the vulnerability of these pieces. They're uncoordinated and hanging. And then there's this deadly diagonal where the queen is exposed. So queen e1 is really like the only move that kind of saves both of these pieces. But then you have knight c2. Very problematic. And so, pick your poison. Like say if you did rook d8, the queen drops. So rook takes c2, queen takes c2, and now you're threatening rook d1. So rook c3, and now you can just go into an advantageous situation right here, queen d1, and just trade the queens off, and then you have two rooks, first rook and knight, two outside pass pawns. So e3 is like the the winning move here. G5 is like more flashy. So G5 happened, F takes G6, check en passant, and Morozevich just simply played king G7. He has his open F file. And now queen e1 is played. If he tries to play a natural move like rook f2, then just rook df8 works. And rook here, queen e1, and queen a2 is a good move. Also, there's a lot of moves here. Rook f4, but I like queen a2 the most. And let's say rook e3, then that would be met by knight c2. So he just played queen e1, rook df8, and this is what Morozevich wanted when he played g5. Rook c1, king g8, g7, rook 8 f7, h3. If this is another natural move, like for instance, so if white wanted to try to, win this knight, for instance, by playing rook cd1, that's just easily refuted by queen c4 because there's too much pressure on the back rank. So rook takes d4, and then you have rook f1 here. Queen takes, rook takes, And then white just loses everything. All right, so h3 is played, and now queen e5. So you can see now the pin was an actual threat. Queen e3, knight c6, rook e2, king takes g7. So Morozevich, although not playing the most accurate continuation or whatever, so slowly just breaking white's position down in this variation. Queen g5, this attack right here on the rook. Okay, and so this is gonna cost white material. Just the fact that his pieces are uncoordinated. The threats against this knight in the corner. See, because the knight really can't come here because of the position of the king. The rook on c1 is hanging, and this is what Morozevich, was intending. So now queen c4 is played, protects the rook, but now queen g3. All right, he plays queen a4, and now simply rook f4. So now you can see the double attack on the queen and the knight. This was Landa's idea to basically get out of that situation. Is play check here, rook 7 f6, and now there's really no way to get the knight out of there because of the pin situation. So he just plays rook d1 and bye to the knight. Some last desperate measures. King h2, rook f2, queen c1, and now queens come off the board. And of course white can resign, but he plays just a few more moves. King g7, and now white resigns. So fantastic game by Morozevich with the black pieces. One of my favorite characteristics about Alexander Morozevich is he would often play for a win with the black pieces. Now, of course, his rating suffered great fluctuations in the process because he was always playing for a win, whether he was white or black. He wasn't one of these grandmasters where he would only play for a win as white and play for a draw as black. He was trying to win, kind of in the spirit of Bobby Fischer. He was trying to win no matter what. And, of course, this would lead him to, making some decisions and openings, play very sharp openings with the black pieces. And sometimes it didn't work out. But, boy, when it did work out, you saw some beautiful games like you see here. In the rear line of the French, very sharp, uncompromising play by the Grandmaster. So I hope you, learned something from this game today. Please check my links below. Support and donate to my channel. That would be greatly appreciated. Also, check the links for DVDs and or books related to the opening presented on the board today, which is the French Defense. And I'll see you on the next video.